Good evening, everyone. I warmly welcome you all to Prelude, the first session of Ideascape's 2022, A Hunt for the Dreamers, brought to you by the Student Society of Landscape Architects. Now, you must be wondering, what is Ideascapes? Ideascapes 2022 is a conceptual competition organized by SSLA and is open to all undergraduates of the University of Moratuwa. Sri Lanka is a country with a unique natural scenery, as well as a rich cultural legacy and a proud history. All of these factors constitute the thread that has connected our lives to this land, from the origin to the present. But there is yet another interesting topic left, and that is about the future. Through the competition Ideascapes 2022, A Hunt for the Dreamers, we at SSLA attempt to discover how these natural landscapes, with their different environmental, socio-economic, and many other values, will look like in the future. From the perspective of skilled youth who are accountable for the future. Among all the unique locations in Sri Lanka, Adams Bridge, Danigala Rock, and Beira Lake are three pinnacles of spectacular landscape features that cover numerous geographical identities, such as coastal, hilly, and urban contexts. How would you define these unique locations with different interpretations? How would you imagine them with different experiences in the future? How would you conceptualize it? Let's take a look at this small video. I think you must have got some idea about this competition by now. So, now you must be wondering, why should I participate? What's in it for me? Well, apart from the obvious reasons, like improving your skills and imagination, you will also get exposure for your creations. And we have some very inviting awards in store just for you. For the first place, a cash prize of 15,000 rupees will be awarded. For the second place, a cash prize of 10,000 rupees will be awarded. For the third place, a cash prize of 7,500 rupees will be awarded. And for the most popular artwork, a cash prize of 5,000 rupees will be awarded. And participation certificates will be awarded for all participants. The top 10 artworks will be featured in all social media platforms of SSLA. To further explain about the competition guidelines, let me now invite Vichakshana Abeyratne. Over to you, Vichakshana.
So thanks, Gurmeet. So let's go through the directions you must follow in the competition. As you saw in the video, we have given three contexts: Adams Bridge, Danigala Rock, and Beera Lake, where you have to awaken all your imagination and think, how will it be in the future through different perspectives and canvas them on paper. Inspire from whatever the thing you need, theories, incidents, and so on. All we need is to make sure that the context character is in it and to have a logical reason to your imagination. So basically, the competition is about conceptualization and bring it into a paper as a 2D artwork or illustration. It can be digital or hand-drawn, and describe your concept, your reason for it, and the time period in words. The competition is only for the undergraduates of University of Moratuwa, and the participants could be group or individual, but a group only can have 3 members or less. And all the artworks will be evaluated based on understanding of the topic, context relation, and the quality of composition and design, simplicity, and finally, the creativity and originality. So consider these while imagining. So those are the basic outline of the competition, and the registrations will be opening from tomorrow onwards. Thank you. Over to you, Dhumi.
Thank you, Vichakshana, for that very detailed explanation. Next, let us move on to the main session of today's event. Before commencing, I have a kind reminder to our audience. Please keep your mics muted at all times to avoid background noises and any interruptions. If you have any questions regarding the session, please don't hesitate to post them in the chat box or in the Google form link that we will share in the chat. They will be forwarded to our guest speaker and clarified during the Q&A session. For today's session, we have an interesting personality with us. He likes to be introduced as a very simple and normal person, unlike the photo you might have already seen in the posts that have been shared. And he gets scared when others think of him as someone really great and mighty. When I was doing my background research to find out who he really is, I wasn't able to find his LinkedIn profile first, but instead, I found articles on ResearchGate, music videos on YouTube, podcasts, and even interesting designs and projects in Behance. And when I did finally find his LinkedIn profile, well, it didn't say much, except that he's a landscape architect at Grabner Hubel in Germany and has been an assistant landscape architect at Balmain Studio Colombo. He has a Master of Engineering in Landscape Architecture and is a proud product of the University of Moratuwa. Without further ado, let me welcome our guest speaker for today, landscape architect Sudhara Kalhan, to talk about how to catch a ghost. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. It was very heavy. I will switch on the camera. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes, sir, we can see and hear you.
I'll try to share the screen. Do you see the full screen? Is it functioning? Working?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we
Okay,
can see it.
nice. Yeah, thank you for that introduction. It was very heavy and I don't know how to react to that. Sorry, but I would just say thank you. But I will try to get into this as I can. Yeah, how to catch a ghost. Feature function relationship and this imagination and creative utility in landscape architecture this is my suggestion for landscape architecture students and the ones who practice it. From my experience, these are not really theories or something theorized in a way that in a book or in a researched manner. Some of these findings are from my own thesis, but I just put them forward as suggestions, not as theories. So yeah, let's try to move on. So I will start with these two words. Then you will understand why I say to try how to catch a ghost. There's a interesting word. The first one is the booth in Sinhala language. The booth has two contradictory meanings. The one comes when we talk about panchabhuta, like the substance of the world, the matter, materiality. And the other comes when we talk about bhutaya, like it's a ghost. It's not really there. So the matter of the world, or the world itself, or the materiality of the world, of the existence, it also has this feeling of being, exist in it. That has something that it pretends to be or pretend to exist, but it's not really there. This is a very interesting point in our language and in our in the way we perceive the nature and the world. It's embodied in this word. And the other thing is that everything has a gati. We used to say things, such and such things is so gati, like a gati. We used to say like that. It means that it has a certain quality that captured us. Gati. Now, gati also has another meaning, like when you say tarala gati, the motion of the fluid uh, dynamics. So this is the other term that has the kind of a feeling saying that something has a kind of a quality or character because it's not a thing, but it's a process. It's in a kind of a motion. It's happening as something moving. It's not static. It's a dynamic thing, and that precisely gives it the character. And because of that, it's a ghost. It's not really there as a thing, because when you catch it, it's already gone. It's already the past. When you, in the moment, you say, "This is a purse," and it's gone. It's something else now. It's more older than it now. So it's a ghost. I can't really catch with it because I'm also myself is a ghost. So let's try to move forward with that idea. I will come directly into an example as I try to visualize it in the context of Sri Lanka. The Sri Lanka as a island, for example, as a feature. So what I should also remind, the Bhuta is in a way the feature in this topic, and the Gati is also in a way the function. And It also works vice versa. We will maybe get into it later. We'll see. And yeah, in this case, in Sri Lanka, there's a main feature that the middle country is very tall. It's very dominant feature. It's highland and surrounded by ocean and flat land. And this feature in the middle, it gives birth for so many rivers, and it's ecologically very sensitive. Biodiversity is extremely high in these areas. And in a way, this is kind of the heart of life in this blue-green infrastructure. In terms of that way, this is the kind of this place where the life pumped into the land. And it's also the place which is the most sacred in a way. We call it Adavi. We call it the summon gods, god summons dwelling area. So it's so respected and honored. So these two things, you see, this feature naturally, in a way, giving so much pumping out life into the world, and the man giving it a kind of a very respected meaning is not a coincidence. It's more like that strategy. But because when you give such a meaning, when you imagine it to be such a powerful thing, it becomes, it protects itself through that idea with the way we perceive. So this is the point I'm trying to point out today, the way the imagination sync or synchronize with what's going on in the natural world. Like in the Anuradhapura also, we can see it's in another scale, like there are rock mountains and flatlands and lakes we see, but always the rock mountains are either a temple or a castle, because they can't do any agricultural activity on rock formations. So what they do is that in a way there are nonsense projects like religion or the king's palace. They don't really do some, in a way they don't do, in another way to do a very big thing to the society, but in landscape way, in an architectural compositional way, they put this function, either the respected functions like king's palace or arama, ashram, temple into this place, and it's protected because of that idea and the respect. And the catchment areas for the lakes are protected because of that. And it is until we respect those functions, the catchment is protected. Until the catchment is protected, the lake is protected. So the whole system functions until the idea works, until we have the value. So this giving an idea for some feature, introducing a function to a feature in the landscape, has this ability of cooperating with what's going on, and it already gives us clues about what to sort out from our imagination, what is suitable for this certain formation. And here is the thing, that the ghost of the place, or the place itself, is not really a thing. It's a process, as we discussed. It's a ghost, it's a bhuta. So it's in the motion. And one time of the time, like a mountain, let's say there's a mountain, and the mountain, we say, okay, this is a mountain, and let's worship this. This is a temple now, let's worship it. And we give this, see the y-axis in this diagram, we give kind of a functional identification for this mountain or the place. This ghost has another meaning now. And from this point onwards, this mountain is not really moving in the direction it was moving. The dance it was doing, the gati it had, is a little bit changed now. Now it's moving in another direction, you see, with the alpha angle. This alpha angle is created by the added value and the motion it already has naturally. And certain value for this alpha will bring the sustainable existence. That is my suggestion. And these features are not really separated, like you can't really draw a line and say, okay, from here you head start and the neck begins, or something like that. You can't really draw a line for features. I mean, where do my elbows starts? Here. We can draw lines, but they are not really there. They are not really separated features. So first thing is that the first part of imagination is we abstract, we take out features. We say, okay, this is mountain. It's saying that we are taking something out. The first part of the imagination, we separate things and we introduce something into it. And here's the thing. I think my suggestion is always to remember that it's something we do. It's not really in the world. The separations, mountains are not really in the world. Mountains are in experience. Mountains are in the way we experience the world, but not a part of the world. Something like that. These features are a symptom of our experience, not a property of the world. So there comes this thing that the features, how they are interact, how they are to each other. When we divide a mountain and let's say next to it, we say a flat land or maybe an ocean, what comes with this feature to the other feature with the dialogue? These two features may have, it creates different meanings in different contexts. For example, in Sri Lanka, most of the rivers start from a mountain, but it's not the case for some other countries. Like in Africa, for example, most of the rivers start from lakes. They have huge internal lakes and the river starts from those places. So in Sri Lanka, when we talk about rivers, it's mostly connected with ocean and mountain. It starts from a mountain and goes to the ocean. Even poetically, we say it's a life is like a river. It's going to the end to find the ocean and to be settled down. So this is, we have seen our life through those things, and that composition is specific for this place. The way they are, the feeling it gives us, it's specific for this place. And so it's important as a suggestion, not as a theory, how we interpret what it means to us, and what is a river for in this context. The meaning of a river in the context of Sri Lanka is not the same meaning for the meaning of a river in some other area, like in Russia. Maybe it's different. It's different because it's compared, its existence is compared to what it is related to. That's the meaning of the word juxtaposition. So it gives this meaning, and this is the clue for the find the function, the fitting function, fitting meaning to this to go on a long time. So when we imagine things, this is the clue to pick the ideas up. The ideas itself is a part of the world. Imagination is a part of the world. So they are not artificial. Ideas are not artificial. They are natural. They're part of this universe. So they are arising from these observations, these compositions. So it's unique for this place. So it's one part is to address that uniqueness, the way we feel about it. It's way we feel about it as an aesthetic thing or a spiritual thing or physical. It doesn't matter. But all these emotions are contextually matters for find out what is the fitting function. This has I have found this is this in few different places in the world, like in Athens. They have these places called agora. This is the place from Athena's what you call it, kind of temple. This is agora. Agora is kind of the middle of their city structure, but the main thing for them in the time of this kind of settlement building is the conversation, expression of ideas. So they center their the centering feature of a city is the agora, a highland, which is the stage to talk, and the Athena is the goddess of knowledge is there on top of it, and everyone is looking towards this. They gather around it, and it lasts for a long time because the meaning is really grounded into the feature of the landscape. They feel it, they know it, it's right, so it's there. So this is selecting where to put the idea, which feature gets the idea. This idea goes to this feature, this idea goes to this feature in this landscape, and the location is this picking out where's the place, how to put our value, overlay the values on top of this landscape. That this can be seen all over the world, like in Sri Lanka, we discussed, like islands get the respect as well as it provides much of the life to the country, and also in Anuradhapura and like this. And in Mayan landscapes, they also have this very weird rain patterns. Because of that, they had to plan irrigation very carefully that time. So mostly what they did was, in a way, they planned irrigation first. In a way, by planning irrigation, they already made the kind of foundation structure to the city. So because the water is the main problem. So in a way, they address this in another slightly different way, but they found what matters most, and they found out how to solve that with the finding lowlands and directing the structures towards lowlands, and find out the other areas to build settlement. And the landscape shape the city, and they have found the value they need, and they have put it like overlaid it on the existing landscape. And here's the thing that as the features are connected to each other, that we are the ones who divide them, like head and neck. We are the one who say they're two things, but it's just one body. So the landscape is one body. They are connected to each other, and as well as because of this, the functions has to also connect to each other. So what happens here in this part of the landscape has to also support and has to have a kind of a dialogue with the other part and the other part, like that. So this conversation is important when we give values to these features, functions to these features. With these interactions, there can come a kind of a feature correlationship. It is there in a way already, because we say, okay, this is one part, this is one part, we separate, but underneath that separation, it's fixed. They are connected one to one. They're not two different things. So giving function should emphasize it and remind us backwards, okay, this is not really two things. That's a clever thing, has happened in some way in Sri Lanka. That's what I thought. That's what I tried to show in the beginning. That has happened, as I think that we knew that we divided things into parts, and through introducing functions, we kind of made a sense that they are not really separate. They're just one mass. In this kind of way of giving meanings to landscape or the features of the world, there comes this kind of a state of balance, as I mentioned, a feature relationship, and as well as a function relationship. So the discussion between feature also comes with the functions, and they act as a one organism. The way we, human activity, human infrastructure, it just become part of the whole system. The whole system start to help what we want to do, and we are helping that because we sustain the image, we sustain the process, the gati of the Buddha. So that's the way to catch the ghost, because it's not really catching it, it's not grabbing it, it's just moving with the ghost. We know it's a ghost. First thing is to know that it's a ghost. and giving a meaning in a way, not to really own it, but knowing that we can't really get it. We give a kind of a meaning to move with it in the way it moves. So that will bring us to that alpha angle, to that certain value where the sustainability can occur. Sustainability doesn't mean that it will last forever. It will, of course, dry out sometime, but for a considerable time that could last. So the landscape is made out of these two things: landscape, the evolution of landscape. Where the one thing is, when we experience the world, we divide it into parts. Like when you have to eat a whole chicken, you can't eat it at once. You have to cut it into pieces. So what you do when you experience the world, you say, okay, that's a tree, that's a bird, and that's the ground, that's a mountain, and that's the ocean, that's a river, and so on. You just divide them. And then we wonder, okay, how the bird relate to this tree? That's a nonsensical question in a way, because we divide it to experience it, to understand it. Understanding is, it's a bhakshana. The word, singular word bhakshana, eating, is related to the word bhashana, speaking. It's a way of eating the world, eating out. Paribhojana. Paribhojana is a bhojana, it's eating, it's consuming. The way we understand is a way of consuming. So this is one part that we have to be aware. I think this is my suggestion, again, not a theory. Be aware that we do this. We separate things. They are not really separate. A forest is not separate from a city. We separate it. It's one connected network. That's why we can't protect forests by putting a fence around it, because that's an abstract image. A green for land with so many trees and animals. This is a very abstract image. It's not really, it's not even a ghost. Abhuta. And the function is the other part. And we then, because like how we try to find how the bird relates to the tree, we introduce functions to the separated features. We do that. And because we separate, if we can remember that we did it, when we introduce images or the meanings to these features, we can introduce things in a way it reminds us that they are not really separated. So I will end here. I think I'm good with time. Okay. So this is like, if you put a meaning to such a one feature, you will, it's like pulling a part of the kind of pulling a piece of the chain. The whole chain comes with the tension you put on it. Like when you give meaning to a certain mountain or something, it's not just that you are putting a function on that specific place. You are not putting a playground just here. It's not the case. The Amazon forest is nurtured by Sahara, the desert with the wind. They are, if we can say, okay, they are so far away, they are not really connected, but they are connected in a way that we cannot really see, because it's one body. You can say my knee is so far from my nose, but it's one body. It's worked together, right? So that in that way, when we put functions to some one feature, the whole thing pulls with it. If we change one place of this, let's say in Sri Lanka, we change one place into one strange function, the whole thing start to respond to this thing. So that's a way we can move forward, in a way that by realizing that or beginning to explore that your or our own inseparability and the connectivity to everything else. Our thoughts, our imagination, and all these things are rising from that, and they are not artificial, they are natural, they are one connected process happening, and we separate things, we give meaning. so we can remind that they are not really separate through giving meaning. I think that's it. If you have questions, I would really like to talk about it. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for that interesting session about how to move with the ghost in the wait moves. I'm sure a lot of you must be eagerly waiting to get your questions clarified. So now is the time for that. Also, if you have more questions, don't hesitate to post them in the chat box. Okay, so let's commence the Q&A session. The first question is, in what ways might imagination improve society? In what ways might imagination improve society?
If this has a bug in that question, this is me answering. Okay, the bug is the improve. We just use that word improve, but what it really means is a temporal thing. What we mean by improvement, like in the process of a butterfly becoming another butterfly, it's a cyclic process. You can say, okay, we can take butterfly as the highest point of the cycle. We can take the egg as the highest point of the product of this. It's a circle. You can take anywhere. A caterpillar is the, like in Alice in Wonderland, caterpillar is the most intelligent guy, Jimmy. So in a way that like that, this in this succession of a society, it's really difficult. One thing is to really say, okay, what is this most successful point we can achieve? But what we can do is imagine a way to really be present now with what's going on in these processes with the landscape. And that is really achieving it right now, not in the future. Because try to achieving it in the future, we will never get there. You know, we will always just try to get there, and it becomes the habit, and that becomes the being just trying to get there, not getting there. So imagination can help, of course, to just to arrive here. You know, it's not to go there, but to really be present here. So that is the first thing, is really observe the context and try to understand how the observer, in this case, let's say me, how I am related to this, what's going on, and what is the I am separating and I'm giving meaning to these things, and how I am connected to these things. And as a society, we need, I can only say the way the things I do. Okay, so these are suggestions. So one thing I do is I make discussions. So imaginations, I try to question the way someone think, just for discussion, purpose of discussion. That brings people into a place. I think that's the way I imagine doing landscape. I'm not imagining of doing landscape in kind of a way, you know, the planting trees, so putting concrete area. It's not. I think a musician can be a landscape architect by making a kind of a way of music and change the mood of a complete traffic situation. You are in the car, rushed and angry, but when you hear this song, you calm down and, oh, nice, whatever, I will just listen to this song. He can do something planners cannot do. I think that's is also a way. So don't limit there, you know. Present right now is a way of being. What you said? What was the question again? What was the word? What was the question? The term in the question. Can you repeat it again?
Yes, in what ways might imagination improve society?
Improve. Imagine that there's limitations there. I mean, right now here. This is not one way, I think. Don't, and also be always aware that pieces and I'm really not something in a future state. If we don't, if we are not really there right now, we cannot get there anyway. That's all I think. So we have to find a way to be there right now, not tomorrow. Just right now, we have to come there, one way or the other. That's how I imagine that can happen.
Thank you, sir. So we have one more question. So the contexts that are provided are not visited physically. So when imagining about it in a virtual aspect, does imagination come naturally, or do we have to work for it?
You have to work for it. I think it's like the inability to go there physically. This is a competition, so this is not very serious, you know. So you can try something like that. Virtually visiting a place is one way of being physical. We don't really see it right now because it's just beginning of the virtually visiting another place. But if we talk to someone else in 100 years or something, if this, let's say, virtually visiting another place becomes something really a thing, it's a way of visiting a place. So it's how we go there, you know. So it will become something. So it's not the real problem here. Of course, you have to work for it. Try to find the meaning of whatever the place of what it is. Try to. My suggestion is relative to context of, let's say, not the world, context of Sri Lanka, but could be the meaning of this particular place relative to all the context, relative to other mountains and the seas around it and the cultures in it and the, I don't know, beliefs and values all in the society. What could be the meaning of this particular thing? What is it? Is it a nose? Is it an eye? What is it? What is it in this body? You know the word lokaya? Lokaya is a body. It's something like our body. So identifying what it really means, it means that it functions already as an organ. Let's say like that, okay? The feature, let's say you take Daniel. This area, it functions as an organ, like maybe like a liver for the whole body. Maybe we can't really crack what it does right now, but try to crack it. That's what I mean. Try to crack and find out what it really does to this whole thing. What is the function it does? What is the gati? What is the quality of the way the ghost moves? What this ghost really does, what it means, and then interpret it in the way we want, you know, a new function, something, but with that, keeping that essence. So we will still see that in another way. Like we see when we look at Sripada, we see something respected. Now it's going away a little bit, of course. Everything has a time. We see something respected, and it's also giving so much life for the light rivers and all these things around the biodiversity. This whole area is very sensitive, and it gives that potential for that. And we also see that, and these things are, you see, like they found the heart and they give the value to them. Okay, this is the loving point. So that's a kind of way to go. So it's okay when you can't go physically. Virtually, you can try to visit it. The exercise, what I can suggest is that one. Try to figure out what it does now. I mean, when the moment you find it, not in the future, it comes. It comes in the process when you try to kind of emphasize it or reinterpret it. But in the first hand, what it already does, what's going on to everything. We do, of course, we do contextual analysis, right? We do that. But that is not really the only thing you can do, like just the closest area or something. It's also with the culture and the whole context. Even if you can with the world, you can also think, because this is a competition, you can also go very far. You can also think about some stars or something far, you can really go distant, maybe another galaxy or something. If you can find something, okay, this is connected to that galaxy there, and it's, there's one body and this has this meaning there, and therefore it has to be this function, something like that.
Thank you, sir. So with your answer pops another question into my mind. That is, when thinking about imagination, one might think about myths and superstitions, which is like really a factor that is there in day-to-day Sri Lankan life. So do you think imagination and myths or superstitions, do they have a connection?
What do you mean by superstition, for example? Give me.
Like the various beliefs we have, like the
It's a part of,
horoscopes and
that's
the stars that we believe in.
yeah. It's a part of imagination, of course. It's imagination. It's something we imagined, let's say, long time ago. So it's kind of outdated, maybe. The what we imagine right now will become that in some years. It's but behind all these things, there is something that goes. I'm trying to talk about in the essence of the meaning we try to give to something, like in the, let's say, a kind of a belief. Okay, this let's say clouds do such a thing. Let's say there's someone living in the cloud and he does this, and that has something in it, some kind of a clue to find or say that it's not literal meaning of it, but the feeling, maybe the clue inside it, saying that the importance of this thing to what we do. That's what they try to draw the line. That's what this thing does. Which kind of importance it has. These images we put into those things, that if those images get outdated, that was the problem I had with the poster, because that image is an outdated image. It's nothing to do with me. So what happens is the super there, but not in the image, but in the connection that image tried to build to what they did in that time they made the image. The moment they made the image, they had a connection to that image in that society, like the god, the father, male dominated society, the king, hierarchy. That is the projected real, literally mean. Of course, if we think about that right now, okay, a bearded man top of a cloud, it's a kind of a stupid, it's a hierarchy, the way the universe works. There's a center point or a kind of a creative point, let's say mind or something. And now that makes more sense if you think about something like that. Okay, that's a center or creative center. So maybe don't hang on to the images, but try to find why they use those images in that time. Then it leads you to what it really means now. then you can find the new image for the same purpose. So you can reuse it with new colors, something like that.
Okay, sir.
Did I answer?
So, yes, it did. So we have one more question. What is the role of a human towards landscape when considering feature and function? What is the role of a human toward landscape when considering feature and function?
First thing is that human is the one who make features. They are not doing the landscape. We say that's a mountain, that's a valley, that's a river, that's a tree, that's a bird, and blah, blah, all these things. And that's a forest, and that's a desert, and that's whatever. This is the creation, abstraction of the feature is a function of human. We do it. So that's first main thing to remember, that it's not really there. We are telling that it's there to know it, of course, and we forget it. But by introducing functions through imagination, the way that landscape architecture, what we try to do is through imagination, we introduce function to those things. Here's a school, here's a library, here's a playground, and there's a supermarket, there's this and that, or so on. But through a certain way of imagination, we can remind that they are not really separate. We don't feel it anymore. We start to feel like that we don't really feel that there are separate things anymore. That it was used and it can be used. So the role of human is that decomposition, like worms do, like bacteria do. We divide into different compositions. We give new names and we divide into different features. And we put functions and we connect again into another composition. Now we have another way of thinking. And after some time, that doesn't mean anything more. So what we do, we divide again. Okay, we divide it. We decompose and we recompose. We recompose through functions, introducing functions. We divide through experiencing, like saying, oh, this is that and this, that, the other, like that. That's where we stand in the middle of it, where we separate things and connect things. We can go forever.
Okay, sir. Thank you. I'm sure. Yes, sir. That's it. I'm sure our audience gained a lot of insight from hearing the ideas and views of our wonderful guest speaker, landscape architect Sudhara Kauhan. Thank you, sir, for those words of inspiration.
No, thank you very much for inviting me. I hope I didn't have much time to prepare this time. I'm in a really messy situation right now. But I hope you got something. If you don't really understand, but you still have some interest to know what that meant, you can, I don't know, contact or whatever. I try to find out some of these people have contact details. So you can talk to me if you want. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let me now invite former President of SLILA, Senior Lecturer, Landscape Architect Shireen Amendra to say a few words.
Oh my goodness, this caught me off guard because I was dreaming. I was truly dreaming, and I really looked forward to hearing Sudhara because he can really motivate a landscape architect and see beyond what is just physically present. I really am so happy that SSLA, your association, invited Sudhara, because Sudhara is a person who can really take you into realms which are beyond the mere physicality of a landscape. It can inspire, and I wish you all the very best out there, Sudhara, in Germany or wherever you may be. It doesn't matter the physical location, but I know you are a dreamer, and may your dreams come true, if such is possible, in this vast, vast realm. And I think it is really nice that you are there to motivate all the young students and the members of the Student Society of Landscape Architects. So
you,
the
madam.
best to the society and the best to you, Sudhara.
Thank you very much, madam. I appreciate so much.
Thank you, madam, for your expressive words. This session would not have been possible if not for our amazing audience, and your feedback means a lot to us. So now it's time to express your views about today's session. Now I invite someone from the audience to express their views about today's session.
Yes, I'm from first year. I find this session very helpful, basically because of two reasons. The way this presented the scheme was very, it was simple and yet we could easily digest it. So I really appreciate that. And the next thing is the way how he explained the importance of functionality when conceptualizing something. As first years, what we come across is we just give us some kind of an creative imagination without any purpose actually. So I think this is like a changing point in this ideascape and also for our future design projects as well. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. So anyone else who want to give your valuable feedback?
The session was indeed a very useful one. We learned a lot of new things, and taking the base of the ideas you gave today, we hope to apply them practically from our individual perspectives. So the critical points which were pointed out and discussed today will be very helpful for us. Thank you for reserving your valuable time on behalf of us. Thank you. We are from level 2.
Thank you all for your valuable feedback. We have also shared a feedback form in the chat. We would appreciate it if you could take a moment to fill it out. As all good things must come to an end, we have come to the end of today's session. Let me now invite the Vice Secretary of SSLA, Sandumini Nimashi, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dulmi, and good evening, everyone. As you heard, ideas are not artificial. They are natural and they're a part of the world. I'm sure today's session has been very enthusiastic for all of you with all these interesting ideas. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank our dear guest speaker, landscape architect, Mr. Sudhara Jalat, for this interesting and insightful session. Thank you, sir, for taking time from your busy schedule to be with us today. Now, I take this opportunity to thank our senior staff members for everything that they have done for us. Dean of the Faculty, Faculty of Architecture, Dr. D.P. Chandrasekhara, Head of the Department, Department of Architecture, Architect Janaka Vijayasundara, and former Head of the Department, Department of Architecture, Senior Treasurer of SSLA, Dr. Gamini Veerasinghe, whom I should specially mention and thank for being a huge support on behalf of the university in each and every event that we organize, and also course director of Landscape Architecture Studies in University of Moratuwa, Professor Shirani Balasuriya, and landscape architect, Madam Shireen Amendra. Dear Sir and Madam, we are eternally grateful for your immense support. I also would like to extend my gratitude to all the internal lecturers present here, and especially to be mentioned, landscape architect Russell Vanigasekara, landscape architect Shamin Dharmasena, landscape architect Aruna Velagedara, and landscape architect Clarence Desalanayaka for your immense guidance and support to organize this event. Also, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all the respected invitees for today's event. And I thank the organizing team as well for working so hard for the past few days to make this event a great success. Thank you, our dear brothers and sisters of the Landscape Architecture degree program. And to conclude, thank you everyone, the dear dreamers, for your participation. I'm sure you found this event very interesting and important, and we highly expect your participation in the competition Ideascape 2022. So we will meet again with another successful event in the near future. Thank you, stay safe, and good night.
Thank you, Sadhmini. That brings us to the end of Prelude, the first session of Ideascapes 2022. The hunt for the dreamers has now begun. Thank you all for your participation. Stay safe. Good night.